Hello, everyone. It's Martha Novak, and you're on a show called Real Talk with Martha Novak. And I'm excited to talk with you today about a subject I have talked about before, but it is a marvelous subject and something recently, a few weeks ago, within a month, brought this home about how important this show is to repeat and to make sure everyone understands it. It has to do with your happiness and the happiness of all who know you and your children's happiness and everything. And I think this is a really important one, that we all find, if you will, our groove, where we're supposed to be in life, what we have to contribute. Suppose we all know that early in our lives. Wouldn't that be wonderful? That we develop in the fields that are easy and effortless and interesting to us. I think if so, the world might be a different place. I'm so glad that you're with us. Hey, sweetie, how are you? I'm so glad you're here. And we are broadcasting, by the way, on Blog Talk Radio and on Facebook Live. So you can see us either place. And if you want to call in and talk to me, in other words, this is the number to get you on the air. The guest call-in number is 347-850-1647. We have very slow speed here, up here in the high hills. By the way, all that we think is improving in November. We're getting fiber optics. Who knew? Well, my husband did, because he was one of the people instrumental in helping this happen. So we're very excited about that. So it might be a different world for all of us. Then I won't have to apologize for my internet connection anymore, and you won't have to toggle back and forth between these two venues to get the information. Hi, guys. Y'all all clicking in. I'm so glad to see you today. All right. Speaking of Blog Talk Radio, people are going to be writing in on Facebook Live. They write their comments or their questions, and I'm delighted to see those and read them. So do know that that's happening. And if I refer to people by name or anything like that, or answer a question, that's where those questions are coming from. Okay? Let's do a prayer, get us all on the same page, actually get me on the same page with you, and then we'll launch off into this really very exciting information. Okay? Here we go. Dear God, who is all there is, you who are all we are and all everything is in this world, we thank you so much for all of it, for where we are right now, because we've created this by our thinking, and we can create something else. We open ourselves, our the deepest levels of our being, to your grace now, your joy, your happiness, and the you inside of us that is love and all sorts of talent and gifts and joys, some of which we don't even know about yet. But we will, and we're listening. We thank you so much, dear God, for all of this. We are now saying, we're going to put ourselves in a state of knowing nothing, for it's the you through us and through everything that knows it all. We open to this past our ego child's mind that says we have to be this and we have to be right and we have to do. Let's just be open and have the intention of that as the pure souls we are, that are nothing but love, unless we are distorting it in some way. So now we ask to see, hear, sense, and know what you would have us do as we open to the truth that lies in that kind of enlightenment. We ask now to know nothing, as we said, so you can move through us and tell us what we might not know. Thank you so much, dear God. We say this prayer in your name, in the name of the Ascended Masters, our love-centered guides and friends, in the name of every person listening to the show. And so it is. Amen. You know, I met a young girl the other day. I love talking to people, and this young girl was just precious. She really was. But clearly, she had not found herself. And I had known her mom, and I had heard stories that she just hadn't found herself yet. She's um, a teenager, not very happy, trying this, trying that, not a lot of self-esteem about much, right? And I thought so clearly, because when I met her, she is one of the most talented people I've ever met. She really is. She just doesn't know it yet. So I pulled this lecture out. By the way, this is called A Harvard Psychologist Says Humans Have 8 Types of Intelligence. Which ones do you score the highest in? Now, we're going to do that today. This article is by Kumar Mehta, Mehta. It's a good article. And so if you want to refer to it, by all means, look on the internet and pull it out for yourselves. As usual, I'm going to add a few things here and there. But I think this is a marvelous, marvelous place to start in knowing who you are and encouraging your kids in who they are, and your friends and your loved ones, because this is really important information. The interesting thing to me is that we would all agree that we're all not naturally skilled in the same things, right? We'd all say that. But that's where self-discovery, and that's where things usually end for people in an unaware society, which is say, oh yeah, everybody has different talents, everybody has different skills, blah. But we don't say, well, what are they specifically, right? It's interesting because I have a different perspective on things. At my age, I look back and find an article like this and go, absolutely, I did this. I followed this and this and this and this and this. These days, it's interesting because I don't like to have my time wasted in any way, shape, or form. So these things that I'm not talented in just really don't have any bearing on my life at all. What I do is I will hire somebody else to do them for me, or I find some way to, or my husband is very skilled in things that I'm not skilled in. What we've got, we must develop. See, this is the power of this. Because for whatever influence we had in our childhood, whether it was our parents that wanted us to go into law just like them, or go into being a doctor just like them, or being a teacher just like them, or going into something that they would enjoy doing, we tend to do that. And if we do that enough, we never find ourselves, and we wonder why we're never happy. You know, I remember my darling mother knew that I was good with words and could talk to people. Okay, I can talk to anybody. It's something that I do well. You'll hear about that. But she thought, because I had a natural curiosity, and by the way, I love beauty, a talent of mine, not one of these, but it's just certainly a talent of mine, that I'd be very good in real estate. I'd be abysmal in real estate. You let me have one person in front of me that doesn't know what they want when I know what I want right away, I will have absolutely no patience for that. That would not be good for me. That would not be something that would use me. The more of these talents you use, the more of them you use, the happier you're going to be. Now, this article does not say this, and other articles don't either, but I'm going to say it. I think you have 3 of these and 1 minor one. I think everybody has 3 of these and 1 minor one. I am a writer, as you know, and I also do therapy for people. Certainly, writing uses everything I know about therapy for people and what motivates them. And it also explores my love for words and several of my intelligences. And why wouldn't I like that just about better than anything in the world, right? So this involves thinking through, how do I use 3.5 of my intelligences? What can I do? Because there is where your fulfillment lies. And in fulfillment lies happiness, of course. Okay, so let's talk about this. It's honestly a very exciting thing. Why do we get into the wrong things, though? Why do we force ourselves to do things we shouldn't? We've all grown up kind of beating ourselves up, right? You could see my intelligences and my lack thereof, by the way, on an achievement test in school. I scored, as I recall, almost 800, if that was the top score in verbal skills. But I really practically failed in math. That has never made any sense to me at all. Math and that kind of intelligence. Now, each intelligence is powerful in its own right. Okay? My dad was a CPA, and had I gone that route, I would have been the most miserable human being alive. That would have not satisfied me in any way. And yet, all parents are afraid for their children. I know my mother signed me up for a typing class when I was like a sophomore in high school during summer school, right? And I took to it like a fish in water. I just loved it. I absolutely loved it. I think she thought, well, the poor little thing, when I was a kid, the poor little thing will always be able to find a job as a stenographer or a secretary or something like that. Little did she know that I'd put it to use as a writer and love it, and am thankful every day I sit down at my computer to write that I know how to type. It's been a wonderful thing. Okay, so let's look at this, all right? You see, some people are more athletic and have better coordination. Some people are really good at languages and words, and we have that at a fairly young age. I know I did. Others are good with numbers, visualizing patterns. We're all different. Isn't it wonderful that we are? And I think as someone who coaches a lot of parents, I think it is a parent's job to give children lots of opportunities to see where their talents lie and what they're most interested in, and encourage that. I am not one of these people that recommend you've got to stick with what you started, young lady or young man. I don't believe that. I think that this is about finding your talents. For example, my father and mother signed me up for a ballet class. I thought it was, sorry for all of you all that are ballet people, but for me it was the stupidest thing I'd ever done. I am so not coordinated. I am clumsy. I have always had too much weight on me. I don't have good balance. Didn't when I was a little kid. Wrong thing for me to do, right? And luckily, my parents didn't say, well, we paid all this money and started you, you're going to have... No, we just took me out of that because that was not for me. Everyone saw it right away. It was not for me, okay? But other things were. And that's what they encouraged me in. Like singing, for example. Okay? All right. The thing to me that is most sad is that people do not understand the gifts they have. Oh, they may have a fleeting thought about it, but they don't understand you've got 3.5 intelligences here, and your life is going to open up when you start using them, all right, and developing them. All right. So think how much you will enjoy your job and your hobbies and your, if you know what you excel in. Now, this is all based on something that actually made its debut in 1983. It was a book called Frames of Mind. I have not read that, but it was by Howard Gardner, a psychologist and professor at Harvard University. He's the one that came up with that. This has to do with the 8 ways people process information. So, How high you score in one category does not necessarily influence how high or low you score in another. You're going to say, this is me, this is me, this is not me, this is me, not me, not me, not me, this is me, as you go through this. If you want to learn to be exceptional in something, this article goes on to say, your best bet is to understand the unique areas of intelligence that you have to your advantage and to use those strengths. Not beat yourself up in the back room because you're not good at something. That's ridiculous. You know, I remember years ago when a real fitness craze was going on. I remember they were talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger, who went around pinching people's midriffs. I think he did that, if I'm not mistaken now, I may be wrong about this, to Emma Thompson. I'd slap the living hell out of him. But anyway, he seemed to think that he could go through life criticizing people's bodies for not being, in his opinion, what his opinion was, physically fit. Guys, that is a real myopic viewpoint about everything. Everybody's different. Everybody's different. We should be. Now let's start respecting that. But more importantly, let's start knowing who you are. And you start respecting that. Okay? All right. He goes on to say, for example, consider someone who's struggling with writing until they attempt to create a graphic story, and all of a sudden it turns into a compelling narrative. In other words, you do things for your own reasons. For example, I love animals. I love animals. And as someone who loves animals, I have explored horseback riding, okay? I never owned a horse, but I love exploring that and going out on trail rides and things like that. But I do it to commune with the horse. I could care less about my thighs, about my butt. Nothing is physical about it to me. Staying on the horse maybe is physical. I don't want to be a good rider. I want to commune with the horse. That's how I can get on a horse. If you had me just physically working out on a horse, wouldn't do it. Absolutely would not. You've got to understand who you are, okay? So, in his example, it wasn't about the words. It was about the art, you see, of the words. That's an important thing. You might do things differently and for different reasons. You've got to find those reasons, you know? I'm not going to go out and work in the yard for exercise. I'm going to go out and plant what I can plant, given my size and athletic ability, which is none. I have lots of potted plants lining my walkway. Do I enjoy that? You bet. Do I do it for exercise? Absolutely not. No exercise to it. I love the aesthetics of it, you see? Okay. So it's important to give yourself permission to do what you want to do the way you want to do it. Now, let's go into these intelligences right now. The first one is spatial intelligence. My husband and I have a good laugh over that. He's very good at spatial intelligence. I'm horrible. As many of you know, we are moving, and we've lived in a small house, and I have loved this small house, but I can't keep this house clean. And it's interesting. I've talked to my housekeeper, and I've talked to other girlfriends, and we've talked about small spaces. And if you don't have any spatial intelligence, it's really, really hard to know everything, where it all goes in little slots. And I can't, I don't have any talent for this. So let me explain what he says this is. And then each time we're going to talk about potential career choices that he recommends out of it. And I think they're very accurate, guys. I do want to say you all may want a pencil and paper or pen and paper or something to write on so that you remember these things, because they're very important. And I say, as you go through each of these as I read them to you. Score yourself on a scale from 1 means it does not come naturally, to 5, which says it comes very naturally. And let's find what you are really, really good in, okay? So spatial intelligence. This is the ability to think abstractly and in multiple dimensions. Scoring a 5 means you have a large capacity for spatial reasoning and conceptualization, something required for fields such as architecture, graphic design, photography, interior design, and aviation. Potential career choices for something like this, somebody who's really good in this, is pilot, fashion designer, architect, surgeon, artist, and engineer, which my husband is, by the way. It's interesting because no one appreciates art like I do. I really love people's art. I love fine sculptures. I certainly love painting. I'm a huge admirer of people that do all kinds of art. Just adore it. And I have always wondered, until this information came into my hand, why I'm so bloomin' lousy at it. I don't have much special intelligence. As a matter of fact, when this information came floating into my hand, the first several of these, I don't have. So I was going, do I have any intelligence at all? So if you're thinking that as we go through this, be patient. We're going to get you, okay? And you'll have 3, 3.5, just like everybody else. Okay, here we go. The second intelligence is bodily kinesthetic intelligence. This is the ability to use the body in a way that demonstrates physical and athletic prowess. If you have this skill, you could be an athlete effortlessly running down a field or passing a ball, or a dancer flawlessly performing a complicated routine. The swimmer Michael Phelps is probably I'm sure is bodily kinesthetic. A lot of people that are very athletic do have this skill. I do not. As a matter of fact, I starred in many a musical. You know, my physical body is the Molly Brown, Annie Get Your Gun, Liza Doolittle type, okay? I'm small, I can sing, I can belt out a song, but then I would have to dance. And, oh my Lord, that was really the hard part of this for me. So I would write down the combinations and ask the choreographer to please dance it for me to see what I should be feeling. And then I'd go home and literally I'd be up all night, 10 hours, dancing, trying to do that. And I'd come back and I was ready to learn the next routine the next day, because I would have to do it that way. Because my body is very slow in picking things up like that. I'm not going to say it's negligible, but I'm going to say it's almost negligible. Okay, I don't have a lot of talent in the physical arena. If you are bodily kinesthetic and have that intelligence, other potential career choices are dancer, physical therapist, athlete, mechanic, builder, actor, anything like that. Now, I'm going to say actor. I'm not sure I would say actor to that, because I'm an actor. And I am very good, as I said, with words, and I'm very good with feeling. So what kind of actor are you going to be? If you're an actor like Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger, I can't do it. No, they have this. But if you're an actor like I don't know who you'd compare me to, Jessica Lange, or somebody who's thoughtful and pulls out emotion, I can do that. So I think some of these things we have to look at and go, well, exactly what do they mean by that? They're actors, and they're actors, right? They're dancers who can act, like Fred Astaire. There are actors who can dance, like me. And I always had the philosophy that if I was cute from the waist up, they'd never notice what my feet were doing, because I was a sloppier dancer. You know, I'm not a great dancer. It's interesting to watch people like this. I remember that Liza Minnelli and Baryshnikov, I remember seeing them dancing side by side in the early television. And it was interesting because he was so effortless and she was full of effort. But of course, I have great respect for Liza Minnelli because she is a performer, not necessarily a dancer. She can dance and she can dance beautifully, but when she's side by side with someone like Baryshnikov, you go, you understand? So we all have our talents. That's not to disparage anybody. I think she's great. She's great as an actress. She's great as a singer. Oh my God, she's great as a comedian. She's full of emotion. If she's doing drama, she's marvelous. So understand what I am saying here. It is that extra edge of what you do well, okay? Musical intelligence is the third intelligence. This is the sensitivity to rhythm, pitch, meter, tone, melody, and timbre. This may entail the ability to sing and or play musical instruments. Famous people with musical intelligence include Beethoven, Jimi Hendrix, Aretha Franklin. Okay. It's very, very interesting, I think. I've known some fabulous musicians. My first husband was a fabulous musician. I know people that have a great deal of musical intelligence. And in spite of me being on the stage and me singing, I was like Liza Minnelli. I'm a great performer. Great performer. I can make you laugh. I can make you cry. I can do all that. I can sing. I can carry a tune. I can follow a rhythm. But do I have that extra edge that Aretha Franklin had, or some of these really incredible musicians in the world? No. No, I did not. I realized it. I was good. I just wasn't good enough. You understand? So it's very important for you not to then go, oh, I'm not good enough. No, don't do that. Find what you're good at. Don't beat yourself over this. This is one of my half ones. Yeah, I'm pretty good at it. Okay, so I said you're going to have 3.5 intelligences. Here's my half. Why is that not all right? Of course it is. It just doesn't mean I'm going to Broadway and be a star there. First of all, I wouldn't want to be. It wouldn't use all my intelligences. Are you getting this? I hope so. All right, so potential career choices for musical intelligence are singer, yeah, okay, musical conductor, DJ, music teacher, songwriter, composer. The music that you hear is called All There Is at the start of our broadcast. I wrote it. I have lovely lyrics that go with it. And yeah, I tended to use my musical intelligence as a writer. And then when I dropped the music and just did the writing, that's when I really found myself. Okay. Guys, I hope you are not annoyed by personal stories. These personal stories certainly are not yours. But I want you to see how you do this, because my experience with music and as a writer very much paralleled his when he was talking about trying to write, and then you find graphic design and all of a sudden your narrative comes out, right? Well, the same thing was true for me. So I was a singer, I was a composer, and yet when I dropped the music part of it and just concentrated on the words, that's when I really found myself. The next intelligence, number 4, is linguistic intelligence. It's sometimes called language intelligence, and this involves sensitivity to the meaning of words, the order among words, the sound, rhythms, inflections, and meter of words. And those who score high in this category are typically good at writing stories, memorizing information, and reading. Oh yeah, that's me all the way, okay? Even when I'm writing a book, the book is never finished until I do 1 or 2 reads out loud. Who am I doing them to? My cats and dogs, really, because nobody's listening but me. I'm listening to how the words flow, whether as a reader I get hung up on something, if so I have to go back and rewrite it. Hell, I wrote it. It should flow for me, right? But it doesn't always. Because how you theorize something in your head is sometimes quite different from the way the reader receives it. Potential career choices are poet. I certainly started out as that. Novelist, journalist, editor, lawyer, English professor. And, you know, one of my big bugaboos these days is I do a lot of crossword puzzles just to relax, have fun with those. And I've gotten into, in the last several years, English crossword puzzles. In other words, British crossword puzzles. And so I'll do them, and once in a while, they won't be precise. What are these crosswords? You kind of have to look at their hint kind of like this, because it's not going to be what it really means. You know, as if they write it and they seem to want a verb, it could be instead a noun that they want, and it's just frustrating. And I go, you know, I don't know why I do it and frustrate myself, but I do. All right, number 5. Logical mathematical intelligence. This is another one I do not have. Never had it. Nope. The ability to analyze problems logically, carry out mathematical operations, and investigate issues scientifically. People with this intelligence, such as Albert Einstein, and they say Bill Gates. I don't know Bill Gates. I mean, I know who he is, but I don't know what his skills are skilled at developing equations and proofs and solving abstract problems. Okay. This has never been me, guys. I used to feel bad about that because I'd compare myself to others that really grasped this so easily. And I will never forget, I was doing a play. And after the play, for certain people, the actors would line up and shake people's hands. It was a receiving line of sorts as people, you know, certain people left the theater. And I was in the receiving line, and sure enough, who comes through but my one of my math teachers in high school. And he was a colonel, and I said, "Oh, Colonel, I'm so glad I'm not in your classes anymore, because I struggled, kids. Oh my, did I struggle." And he held my hand and hugged me, and he said, "And I'm so glad you're not either." It was as big a struggle for me as it was for him, because it just didn't make any sense to me at all. Anyway, his potential, the potential career choices for the logical mathematical intelligence are these: computer programmer, mathematician, economist, accountant, scientist, and engineer. And you betcha my husband, the engineer, is great at this. God bless him. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be able to do even 3/4 of what we do, half of what we do. Number 6, there is interpersonal intelligence, INTER, personal intelligence. This is the ability to interact effectively with others. It's a sensitivity to other people's moods, feelings, and temperaments and motivations. Essentially, it's being able to understand and really relate to those around you. Well, this is another one of mine. This is what I do for a living as I coach, right? Does that mean that as I go through my life that I am always sensitive? No, I'm human, but I certainly try to be. This is what I am tuned into with people. Potential career choices here are team managers, certainly have been that. Negotiators, been that. Politician, haven't been that. Don't want to be that. Publicist, got to turn the page now. salesperson, and psychologist. Energy work is what I do, so I'd add that. And then number 7 is intrapersonal intelligence, INTRA, personal intelligence. Now what this is the sensitivity to one's own feelings, goals, and anxieties, and the capacity to plan and act in light of one's own traits. I would say in light of one's own values as well. I'll put that in there, because this is someone who has developed the knowing of self. Intrapersonal intelligence is not particular to specific careers. Rather, it's a goal for every single person in the world in a complex modern society where one has to make consequential decisions for oneself. This is the Oracle of Delphi saying, know thyself. It is an extremely important thing to do. Now, when they talk about potential career choices, the first one they come up with is therapist. Because I'm going to tell you right now, they're therapists and they're therapists. They're good ones and they're bad ones. And what does this have to do with? It's how much they've developed themselves. It's how much is the healer healed? Is it? Or are these people still resentful? Are they still keeping their past a secret? Are they still not finished with their stuff? Isn't that interesting? The best therapist in the world is going to work on themselves for a long, long time. And when someone, this is my cat Schnitzel, everyone, and little Schnitzel just loves to be in these sessions. So come here, baby. Oh, let's have you sit in your mother's lap if you must. When people work with me and come into my classes, I'm saying, well, this is really what you're going to do the rest of your life. Work on yourself. And it gets easier and easier and easier and easier as you go. But it's the best, the most healed persons make the best therapists. So this intrapersonal intelligence is just very critical for everybody. So other potential career choices are counselor, psychologist, entrepreneur, philosopher, theorist. All of that is certainly things I'm interested in. And then number 8 is naturalistic intelligence. It's the ability to understand the nuances in nature, including the distinction between plants, animals, and other elements in nature and life. Notable individuals with naturalistic intelligence include Charles Darwin and Jane Goodall. I think that this is one of mine too, although I've never developed this to the extent that I might have. But people ask you from time to time, well, if you weren't a writer, if you weren't a therapist, what would you be doing? And it would probably be, something with animals, because I really, really love animals. My darling husband and I live out here in the woods, and there are bears, and there are bobcats, and there are wolves and coyotes and pumas and panthers. We haven't seen any, but they're out there. Owls of all kinds, and different birds, and the harmony in nature, and all of this is groundhogs we see every day. In addition to the farm animals that people have, how fun is it to go out of your driveway and you can't go anywhere without seeing llamas or horses or cows or donkeys or geese or something, It's just the most exciting thing. And my husband and I talk about that all the time. Isn't this wonderful? We get so excited. We have our little trail cameras that we put up here and there to see the wildlife. I'm glad we share that. It's a really sweet thing to share. So potential career choices are geologist, farmer, botanist, biologist, And I'm back turning the page. Conservationist, florist, even a florist, you see, is in there. We need to build on your strengths now, guys, that you might have we need to build on your strengths. You need to get real good at those things that you're interested in and that scored higher. You also need to ask yourself, is this my wish for me, or is this somebody else's wish for me? Now, those things could be the same, you know? They could be the same. They could be. I know most people see part of you and not all of you. For example, I knew what it took to be a Broadway star. My mother just saw me starring in these productions that I was very good in, but could I compete with the real dancers out there on the stage that were the stars of the Broadway shows? No. It would have been ridiculous for me to go in that area. I always knew I was just not that good. And no matter how much I could ever dance my little feet off, which I wasn't interested in anyway, I knew I was never going to be very good in that, you see? So, thank goodness, there was just kind of this natural intuition with me that said, I don't do that well, I'm going to do these things as well to start with. Now, here's the thing. All of this is an organic process, isn't it? It is an organic process. Certainly, I started out as an actor and a singer, mainly a singer-actor, because the way I look, I was not traditionally beautiful, and so, or traditionally tall and thin. Nope, that's not my body. So I had to be realistic about what I've got. There are people that I see in show business still, because I coach people in show business from time to time, and they're not realistic about what they look like. You know, it's the kid that wants to be Brad Pitt that does not look like Brad Pitt. That's the problem. You can't be in fantasy about any of this. You've got to be realistic about who you are. You can't be trying to please your mama and your daddy still. You've got to find out what you want to do, who you really are, and develop that. And as I said before, it is an organic process, okay? I didn't start, I've always written, but I needed to know, and I can beat myself up now and say, oh, I should have started writing my fiction books years ago. That's ridiculous. I didn't know enough to write them. They would have been schlock. I needed to go on my path that I did as a corporate coach, as a therapist, to understand myself and others to the extent that I could write well. And then I could come up with the stories. I've always been able to come up with stories. But they're better now. Okay. When you have a deep understanding of your natural talents, which are the ones that come right out of your intelligences, you'll have a better chance of being happy, of achieving your goals, of feeling fulfilled in both your personal and your professional life, because all of this plays out in a marriage as well, in a partnership. You know, what do you do well? What does the other person do well? Michael and I are completely different, and we get along just great as long as we respect each other's talents. The problem comes when someone wants you to be just like them, or they are judging your talents as not good enough. That should send you into the ballistic range, because it's nothing you can do anything about. It is intrinsic to you. And a loved one is going to realize how you are and let you have that space to be yourself and support and cheerlead your going forth, even in fields that they don't understand or can't do themselves. Now, that's a good partnership, you see? Now, what I'd like to do, because I know this is confusing, is I'm going to give you a summary of what we just talked about, okay? These have a little different words. And I think that is probably a good thing for us to go forward with. So here we go. Spatial intelligence. The strengths are visual and spatial judgment. The characteristics are they draw for fun. What? That's not me. They're good at puzzles. Michael is good at, I'm always good at word puzzles. I'm having fun with word puzzles. He does puzzles that I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole, right? He is great at those kind of puzzles, really figuring out mechanical puzzles, you know. If we play a game on the internet, we get to the puzzle and I'll go and fix popcorn for us. It goes, it's like, here, honey, you do that one. Get us through this. They recognize patterns and they interpret visuals well. I'm good at recognizing patterns in words. I'm good at recognizing patterns in emotions. That's not what they're talking about here. Okay. The next one is the bodily kinesthetic intelligence. The strengths are physical movement and motor control. Characteristics are they're skilled at sports. They have excellent physical coordination. They remember by doing instead of hearing or seeing. You know, I just don't like this shaming society that we are in right now. The internet seems to make it worse, doesn't it? Everybody shames everybody else. I just can't stand that. I remember having a real visceral reaction to this about 20 years ago. I was listening to the radio. It was idling on in the background as I was getting dressed. And I think it was 25 years ago now. It could have been even longer. Shaquille O'Neal, who is a basketball player, had just gotten back from Greece. And reporters approached him at the airport and said, "How did you like the Parthenon?" And he said, "I don't know, man. We went to so many clubs, I can't remember them all." Now, what I want you to know is the talk show host absolutely vilified him for that remark. What he seemed to forget is when he could play basketball, like Shaquille O'Neal. In other words, when he had the intelligence that Shaquille O'Neal had, then he'd have a right to say, you know, let's talk. But then we'd have an interesting discussion. But he didn't. He can't. That's not who he is. So why would he be criticizing a man for not having his intelligence? And this is going on everywhere. Guys, look to yourselves and healing yourselves. Stop getting on the internet and criticizing other people and shaming other people, especially when it's who they are. Oh my God, there's such a lack of respect here for other people. We may not agree with them. That's just fine. Don't agree with them. Nobody's taking away that right from you. But shaming people because they don't seem to be like you, I just don't understand it at all. Don't you think? Of course, I'm preaching to the choir here because you all are very kind about that, but there are people that are not. Musical intelligence, their strengths are rhythm and music, characteristics and appreciation for music. They think in sounds and patterns. They have a rich understanding of musical structure and notes. The next one, linguistic intelligence, language intelligence. Their strengths are words, language, and writing. Their characteristics are they enjoy writing. You know, I talk to many people and they say, we don't understand how you can do what you do because oh my God, you're sitting up in your little room all alone for hours at a time, sometimes 18 hours at a time, unless I go down and get something to eat. I love it. I'm in a world, you know? It's fabulous. But people that don't enjoy that, that's just not where they're going to end up, right, in front of their desk. They enjoy writing, reading. They're good at public speaking. They're very persuasive, and they can explain things well. Oh, I hope so. That one's to be determined by you. Okay. The thing I want to put here is a lot of times these things start in us as our intelligence is by watching others. I came from a very interesting family. It was a very cultured family. My mom sang, my grandmother was an actor, my uncle was a concert pianist and a doctor. Explain that one. And so there was always a lot of art around me. My parents took me as a young girl to the theater to watch musicals constantly, and to opera, because the Met used to come to Atlanta years ago when we lived in Atlanta. I grew up with all that. And if you sit there and you watch it enough, if indeed this is one of your intelligences, if it is, you see, it wouldn't do anything if it's not, but if it is, you eventually sit there and go, I can do that. I can do that. And you're on the way to developing who you are and what you have to contribute. You see? The next one, logical, mathematical skills. The strengths are analyzing problems and doing mathematical operations. Characteristics are you're a fast problem solver. You understand complex computations, and you like thinking about these abstract ideas. Now, it's interesting because all of these words have different meaning because, gosh, there's nothing more abstract than the esoteric journey, is there? But it's about emotion. It's about going down deeper. It's about assimilating everything into a holistic experience. That, too, is abstract, but abstract in a different way, you see? But if you throw what they call a mathematical operation in front of me, I'm just going to say, I can't do that. Let's do something. Let me spell something for you, because that's what I'll be good at. Interpersonal intelligence, INTER. Strengths are understanding and relating to others. Characteristics are strong emotional intelligence skills, creating healthy relationships, and someone who is good at resolving conflicts and solving conflicts. That's interpersonal intelligence. Intrapersonal intelligence. Strengths are introspection and self-reflection. You know, guys, I don't know what people think, but you're not going to get through life without this. You can have a happy life and do it early and be more aware and insightful in your experience of living. Or you can try to do it on your deathbed as you're heading out. It's going to happen one way or another. So our avoidance of this is for naught. In my opinion, a happy life equals a happy death. Why can't we just lie down and sail right out of here when the time comes? I hope a long time from now for all of us. We shouldn't struggle so, but people struggle on their deathbeds because the ego, they think, without, let me say this, without introspection and self-reflection, They're expecting their ego and their devices like anger and bravado and all that to save them. And death is going to win at that time, kids. You can't keep this up. The ego's not going to save you. The ego never has saved you. It's just been a fantasy that plays out in your head. It's been propaganda from that part of you. Why don't we just drop it all and find who we are authentically and lovingly and go on and try to live that life and quit the bull. It would relieve a lot of problems in you and in other people. It would be a nice thing. We must be sensitive to our own feelings. We must understand our own strengths and weaknesses. We must look at ourselves realistically. If we go on this journey to consciousness, and that's what we're doing here. This is intrapersonal intelligence. That's what you're using when you're listening to a show like this. That's what you're activating. That's why you're here. It's going to make you incredibly insightful about your own life, about what's happening in the world. And guys, guess what? You have just opened the door to the esoteric journey, where nothing's what it seems. Okay. The last one, again, naturalistic intelligence. The strengths are seeing patterns and relationships to nature and in nature. Characteristics are they're interested in areas like botany, biology, zoology. I have such an appreciation for living things, whether it's a little animal that's growing up or whether it is plants, flowers and herbs and weeds. Oh, it's fascinating. The whole thing is fascinating. I found some pretty weeds up here in the woods that are just wonderful. They're gorgeous. They can live as long as I'm not planting a garden, at which time they've got to go. This is somebody that has a keen appreciation for nature and enjoys being outside. They said they enjoy camping. No, not me. They enjoy gardening. Yes, I do. And they enjoy hiking to a certain extent, yes. Those are the things that are true. I think to be a real hiker, you better have some of that bodily kinesthetic intelligence. Mm-hmm. We have friends that hike through Tyrol and some of these really, really steep mountains here too. Look at the Appalachian Trail that goes from Georgia to Maine. And that's not me. That's just not me. But I appreciate all the animals and the plants and everything that are here. Guys, I'm going to say again, the reason that I am talking about this today, and I'm going to end the show early because I think we've said it all, but the reason that I'm talking about this today is if you can realize these things about yourself early, the earlier the better, today would be a good day. And start exploring these things and developing these things in you. And by the way, patting yourself on the back for having done that in an unconscious manner, you're going to do very well in life. Okay? But that you are settling for a job that you have been afraid to leave that uses nothing of what you are. Guys, come on. How? And then you say, how can I be unhappy? Well, look, that's why. This is about contribution, isn't it? It's about getting closer to who you are authentically and contributing your talents and gifts and abilities to the world. And dears, that's what you're here for. That's the natural way. That's the loving way. That's the God in you calling you to something wonderful. So, I have enjoyed talking with you today very much. Love you dearly. We'll be back next week. There will be some time somewhere in the future, probably at the last of October, that I am going to take off, but I'm going to be pretty steady until then because we have a lot to talk about, you and I, okay? But I'll be moving sometime later on, you know. So that's looming ahead. Woo! all those pods. All right, guys, you take good, sweet care of yourself. Let's do a prayer, and then I wish you a wonderful day. Okay? Whoops, I have to put a poodle on my lap first because, oh, you want to say hey to everybody? This is Tuffle, everyone. Yep, he's a good boy. All right. Animals again, animals and flowers. Okay, here we go. Dear God, who is all there is, you who are all we are and all everything is in this world, we are enormously grateful to be just who we are, to have just what we have, knowing that you are a God of more. You are an infinite and ever-expanding set of truths, always in motion. There's always more to know about you. There's always more to know about us. For you and we are one. We thank you so much now for these intelligences. Some are absolutely in us now. We dedicate ourselves to exploring these things, to investigating these things, to see what's out there that could use our talents and gifts and abilities, how we can be inspired to more and to contribute. We thank you so much for this in everyone. Every one of us has something different. Every one of us is being talked to in a new and inspired way. Thank you, Michelle. I'm so glad, darling, that you joined us today. Help us know how to use this. Bring us now. Bring us the opportunities and make us courageous enough to seize those opportunities when they come along. Take out all fantasy. Let us stand in reality and know who we are in you. We thank you so much, dear God. We ask now that you remove all blocks to this information, that we may see clearly who we are and go forward with that in your divine, bright, and shining world. We thank you so much. And now we say this prayer in your name, in the name of the Ascended Masters, our love-centered guides and friends, and in the name of each and every person listening to this show. Thank you. And so it is. Amen. Okay, kiddos, there you go. We'll come back next week with another show, okay? And see you at 10 o'clock. I don't think the daylight savings time, I don't know what we're doing. I've heard that we're going to keep daylight savings time, but not until 2023. I think it changes over in the 1st of November, like November 6th or something like that. But anyway, until then, see you at 10 o'clock on Sunday mornings, okay? Take care of yourselves. Love you. Bye.